I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation.
Watch the exact moment Whoopi Goldberg realized she picked a fight with the wrong woman. Karoline Leavitt just dropped a truth bomb on The View that left their entire panel frozen in shock and disbelief. This wasn't just a clapback, it was a surgical strike against the media elite who've spent years pushing narratives instead of news.
Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job. Yeah. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason.
When Whoopi tried mocking Leavitt's decision to ban the AP, she never expected the verbal beatdown that followed. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The mainstream media establishment never saw Karoline Leavitt coming, a young press secretary who refuses to play by their rules and knows exactly how to hit them where it hurts. The ladies of The View thought they could steamroll her like they do to everyone else. They were dead wrong. When Leavitt made a simple announcement about welcoming new media voices to the White House press briefings, the View panel completely lost their minds. Whoopi Goldberg led the charge with her signature eye-rolling and dismissive hand gestures, completely misrepresenting what Leavitt actually said. But it was Joy Behar who took the cake with her absolutely ridiculous claim that Leavitt wanted to replace respected journalists like Bob Woodward with Kim Kardashian. Talk about manufacturing outrage. This wasn't just a one-time slip-up. The View has established a disturbing pattern of distorting facts when it comes to the Trump administration. Remember when they falsely claimed the Associated Press was banned from the White House? Total fiction. Or how about their mockery of Leavitt's first press conference as boring?
Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all...
It was such sass, like this answer about the illegal immigrants that Trump is now getting kicked out of the country. Speaking of Donald Trump, I was stunned and amazed by his new White House spokeswoman today. She's actually the youngest ever in that job, Karoline Leavitt. She's just 27 years old. But boy, was she giving it to the Trump haters in her first White House briefing.
Simply because she didn't provide the drama they crave for their ratings. But perhaps the most disgusting moment came when Sunny Hostin smugly dismissed Leavitt's qualifications with the sexist suggestion that she only got the job because Trump thinks she's a 10. Imagine if a conservative show made similar comments about a Democratic press secretary. The View would be calling for cancellations and boycotts faster than you can say hypocrisy. So how exactly did Joy Behar twist Leavitt's statements about new media? By completely fabricating a narrative that Leavitt wanted unqualified celebrities in the press room. What Leavitt actually proposed was bringing in diverse media voices beyond the traditional establishment outlets, a move toward more inclusive representation that The View should theoretically support, but they don't, because it threatens their monopoly on the narrative. The View's credibility is in absolute freefall.
I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes.
In one particularly embarrassing episode, they had to issue 4 separate on-air legal corrections. 4. These are the same people who lecture everyone else about misinformation while spreading it themselves like confetti at a parade. And that AP ban they were so outraged about? Pure fiction. The administration simply requested respect for their renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, a reasonable request that the AP chose to ignore. The View twisted this into a full-blown attack on press freedom because that's what they do best: distort and amplify. While The View hosts were busy distorting and amplifying,
I have to give Peter Dutton huge credit. He does give it right back as well.
Yeah, I think this is the new era of political leaders being honest.
Dang, Rowan, I couldn't do that at 27. No nonsense, straight to the point, courage, detail. By the way, I think the way that she answered is a lesson that many Liberal MPs could learn faced by, ABC journalists.
They never anticipated becoming the target themselves. Karoline Leavitt delivered what many are calling the most devastating takedown in daytime television history, leaving Whoopi Goldberg and her co-hosts completely blindsided. Leavitt's response was surgical and devastating. She labeled the View hosts as nothing more than conspiracy theorists in political analyst costumes who have been wrong about everything for years. This wasn't just a casual jab, it was a calculated strike at the very foundation of their credibility. The look of utter disbelief on their faces told the whole story. These women who make their living calling out others were suddenly on the receiving end. Whoopi Goldberg, the queen of eye-rolling dismissiveness, completely lost her composure. Her trademark hand gestures became increasingly frantic as Leavitt continued her verbal onslaught. Viewers immediately noticed the panic in Whoopi's eyes as she desperately tried to regain control of the narrative. But it was already too late. Her exaggerated movements and desperate tone shift revealed just how deeply Leavitt's words had penetrated. The fallout was immediate and severe. Social media platforms exploded with viewers expressing their satisfaction at seeing The View finally get a taste of their own medicine. Comments like "cancel The View" and "what a toxic bunch" flooded Twitter and Instagram, with even longtime fans questioning their loyalty to a show increasingly out of touch with everyday Americans. What pushed Whoopi over the edge? Leavitt's brutal assessment that The View hosts are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help. This direct hit at their relevance clearly struck a nerve, as evidenced by their conspicuous silence on all things Leavitt for weeks following the exchange. They simply had no defense against someone who refused to be intimidated by their platform. Even more damning was when liberal commentator Stephen A. Smith publicly called out The View's obvious bias, saying they'd abandoned any pretense of journalistic standards. When fellow liberals start pointing out your hypocrisy, you know your credibility has completely collapsed. How did a 27-year-old press secretary manage to silence television's most notoriously vocal panel? By exposing their hypocrisy with laser precision while maintaining complete professional composure. While they yelled and gesticulated, Leavitt remained calm and focused, creating a contrast that viewers couldn't help but notice. What we're witnessing isn't just another celebrity spat. It's the collapse of mainstream media's iron grip on American minds. The numbers don't lie. Only 16% of Americans still believe the mainstream media reports news accurately. That's not just a decline, it's a total credibility collapse. While The View's hosts continue their desperate crusade against anyone who challenges their narrative, Leavitt has exposed something far more significant than one show's hypocrisy. She's revealed why Americans are fleeing traditional news sources in record numbers. This confrontation perfectly illustrates the media landscape's seismic shift. Americans aren't buying the polished propaganda anymore. They're turning to independent voices that speak plainly and respect their intelligence. Leavitt's composed factual approach versus The View's emotional meltdowns represents everything wrong with today's media elite, and exactly why their empire is crumbling before our eyes.